Hi Derek, this screencast is by myself, Daniel Reid and Darren Reid. This is the screencast for our pair project CA C++ in making the game. So for our game we have three text files, rooms, characters and objects.txt. For the rooms we store an ID, name, a description and the exits that you can go from that room. Characters is ID, name and description, and then the same with the objects, an ID, a name and a description. So now I'll go through the project in Visual Studio. So we've a main file and then we've three classes. So we've room class, an object class, and a character class. Inside the character class we put our member variables inside the private, and then we put our constructors, our getters and setters, and our print method inside the public. The room class is the very same except we've more member variables, so therefore there's more getters and setters and there's more parameters inside the constructor. The object class is different, however, because it's an abstract class and it has virtual functions. So rather than have a class for every object like key or ladder or bin, for example, we just create instances of this object class with the virtual functions. And then inside the CPP files is just the usual stuff, so the constructors, the getters, and the setters, and then the print methods at the end. So now I'll show you a quick overview of the functions and how the game works in the main.cpp. So at the start of the main file we have the usual includes, so include all the libraries that we're going to need and the header files. Then we have our namespaces that we use throughout the project. Then we have the function headers, so this tells the compiler when the main method calls the functions that the code is coming later on, so it doesn't crash. Then we have the path where all our text files lie, is there. So up next is our main function. So from there we call our menu. Our menu consists of two things. So we welcome the user to the game and then they can load a previous game state or they can create a new game, and we use a switch statement to take in that choice and then decide which function gets called from there. So next are all our functions that we needed for the project. So the main calls the menu function. So menu, we just welcome the user to the game. We give them two options. They can either load a previous state or they can create a new game, and we use a switch statement to decide there. Then we go to our new game function, for example. So the user gets to select their character. We decided to set three characters in a character.txt file, and what we do is we load them characters from a file. We display them to the user. The user selects which character they want to use, and then we display that back out to them. Next, we load up the actual gameplay. So inside gameplay, the first thing we had to do was read the rooms in from a file. Then we decided to use pointers so we'd be able to track where the user was in each room and where they wanted to go. And for a user to change rooms, we decided we'd use strings. So the user would just type which room they would want to go in, and they can only go into certain rooms depending on the room that they've been in previously. So, for example, from the courtyard, they can only go to the basketball court, accommodation, or pool. They couldn't get to the infirmary or the janitor's room, etc. And we used a sequence of if statements to do this. So at the end here, we just have the last three functions that we use for the game. So the load rooms from file and load characters from file are used by both the new game methods and the gameplay methods. So gameplay uses the load rooms from file. That loads the storyline basically and the map for the game. As you can see, we just passed in the path and the file name. We used getLine so we could read in a whole line of text. We just assigned that to a variable, passed that to the setter in the room class, and we added that to a vector. Both these methods, load rooms from file and load characters from file, they both return type, obviously room or type character. And then our final method is character choice. This is what allows the user to choose which character they want to play the game as. So we've three options: Selena, Justin, and Jessica. So I'll now pass you on to Darren, who will do a run through and a demo of the game.
Alright, hi Derek, this is Darren Reid here, just taking over for Daniel. I'm just going to show you the actual game running now. So just start without debugging, and you see you get a pop-up screen with two options. New game works and load game was a Just it was an idea of ours, never got to fully get working. So you type in 2 to start the game, and you get prompted with 3 character choices. So you have Helena, Justin, or Jessica. I'm going to pick Jessica. And then you wake up in the first room in the asylum, and it gives you the objects in the room and where you can go. So I'm going to go to the courtyard, which brings you to the dark courtyard. And now you have 3 options. There's a basketball court, accommodation, or swimming pool. So I'm going to go accommodation, and you can see now we've moved into the accommodation, which gives you can either go back to the courtyard, you can go into the janitor's room, or you can go to the power room. So I'm going to go into the janitor's. So now you're in janitor's room, you can see it gives you the description of the room. There's an office key, a key with an office key on it, and you have the objects key and ladder, which are going to be used. But obviously we couldn't get objects working properly in our game, unfortunately, but the idea was you could have a key to open the door and then the ladder to climb a wall. So you can go back now. Where you can go is only the station goes back at your accommodation. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the courtyard. So back in the courtyard, you now go to basketball court, and it brings you over, and there's more rooms over here you can go into. You can move around all these rooms. Go back to courtyard. You can go to courtyard. You can go back to the swimming pool. So go in the pool, and you can see there's a courtyard you can go back to. Then there's an unmarked room. The unmarked room is going to have our Mingveis in it. You see there's objects in the room. There's a chest and the Mingveis. The idea was that you could pull the Mingveis out of the chest, but of course we couldn't get objects working, so unfortunately we couldn't show you that at the moment. But the idea was there that you'd pull out the Mingveis out of the chest and then you would die. That would be the one room you could die in. And then of course then you can go beside the gate. So if you type in gate, where you can go, you can, if the power's on, the gate would have opened. So you can go to the wall. You can go to the wall, and it just brings you to this last bit where if you had the object that was a ladder, if you had got it working, you put the ladder down, you climb the wall, and that would be the end of the game. But of course we haven't got the ladder working, so we couldn't show you the very end, but that was the whole idea. You go through the electric gate with the power on, and then jump the wall. That's our game.